Hi guys, Ray here from City Fan TV, and you'll recognise Scott Martin there. Scott is let me get this right. You're a UEFA qualified coach, aren't you? Well, you're a qualified coach.
Yeah, USSF.
USSF. You're an analyst for Total Football Analysis on La Liga. Your heritage is Portuguese. You've been on the channel a couple of times talking about Ruben Dias. And before I give you the big hellos, but I'll big you up because everything you said in that interview we had all the way back before he joined has come to pass. He's been awesome. He's been touted as a player of the season already. And you were spot on. So welcome, Scott. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing well, Ray. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. That's the best build-up anybody's ever had because you were absolutely spot on. And you've got a book out. So tell me about your book, please.
Yeah, so the book is Revitalizing Real Madrid. So it really digs into, that brilliant run that Real Madrid had under Cristiano Ronaldo and Zinedine Zidane. That's how we set it up. And, it looks at that Champions League three-peat, first time in the modern era. So we kind of take a data analysis view of that. We look at some of the statistics of the team and some of the key players. And then from there, we have the collapse. Cristiano Ronaldo leaves, Zinedine Zidane takes a year off, or he tries to take a year off. And we just see a team that's just a shadow of their old selves. I mean, just a systemic collapse, a team with no identity, a team that hasn't identified the issues that they suffered on a weekly basis and therefore failed to adapt, failed to solve that problem. Yeah. So this is the story about Zinedine Zidane coming back, renewing the Real Madrid identity, and bringing this club back to glory. And, I look at some of the tactical principles he brought back, as well as, really breaking down how the squad fit into their roles.
And where can people buy your book?
So that's on Amazon. I would definitely head there. And, sneak peek, keep an eye out for a couple of more collaborations that are in the works. So we've got one for the Champions League fans. It'll be due the day before the Champions League quarterfinals. And then one that's more for the soccer parents here in the States, Soccer Parent Handbook, which is due to come out in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, there's no stopping you, man.
There is no stop.
Fantastic. Guys, we are going to talk about Pedro Porro. Now, some of you might have heard about him. He's a City player. He's out on loan. You might have heard about him as he's a right back. He's played right wing. And he's doing really well in Portugal right now, which is why, obviously, we've got an expert, Scott, on the show. I'll give you a little bit of background. Pedro Porro is a Spanish kid. He's 21 years old. He's apparently 5'9", which is about 175, 176. He was at Girona since 2017, August 2017. City bought him 2 years later. It was rumoured, I think it was £11 million. I think it was rumoured we bought him from Girona. We loaned him out for a season to Valladolid. He only played 13 games. And then August last year, he went on a 2-year loan to Sporting. We'd know it as Sporting Lisbon, obviously in Portugal. And this season, he's done really well, which is why his name's cropped up. People saying, can we get him back? Or what's the score with him? He's had 27 appearances this season, 4 goals. He's played all the league games, 20 league games, and Sporting are 10 points clear on the top of the league, doing really well. And I think he's been a big part of that. So to start with, Scott, can you tell me where he's been playing mostly this season?
Yeah, so Sporting's coach, Ruben Amorim, funny enough, the Benfica legend, he has the Sporting club playing a 3-4-3. So within that system, we have Pedro Porro playing as a right wing back. And you can see he definitely has a little more attacking freedom within that setup. He's very, very active in the attacking half of the pitch. But what's really impressed me, and this was definitely something that surprised me coming into the year, is that he is such an energetic two-way player. Very committed on both sides of the ball. He's one of the league leaders in possession-adjusted interceptions. But by the same token, he's also one of the league leaders in passes into the box, assists per 90 minutes. He's just such a dynamic attacking presence. When you look at his data for the season, you find a guy who's 70th percentile or better in Liga NOS in nearly every attacking category. And his passing really isn't too far behind. You can make an argument that in terms of efficiency, you can definitely make some improvement there. But this is a Sporting side, which, if you remember, they encourage some of those high risk, high reward passes. That was always the big knock on Bruno Fernandes. One of the reasons for his holdup in the deal to Manchester United is that he took too many risks. His passing percentage was too low. Well, you know what? I'm willing to give that guy, a few more chances to take those risks if he's going to get me to goal an extra 2 or 3 times a game. So we see something very similar with Pedro Porro. He's very successful in attacking or progressing the ball down the wing. But man, when the team enters the attacking third, that guy's looking to cut inside. And I love his direct mentality. When he sees a running lane, he bursts through it. So he's been an absolute joy to watch. And between Pedro Porro on the right, and then Nuno Mendes, the young Portuguese player, who's, if you can believe all the rumors, he's rumored to be out the door to Liverpool or City, Real Madrid, anyone for 65 million euros. Sporting has really dominated on the wings this season. And those two players in particular, especially in their contributions in the attacking third, they've been a major reason for Sporting's success. And like you said, 10 points clear of Porto, and the big derby, or the big game coming up this weekend. If Sporting can win that, they'll be 13 points up with 13 to go. That's a league title. First time in, I think, 28 years.
Yeah. And you'll be partying. So if you win this weekend, you'll be partying this weekend for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah, so much.
So what do you think his best attributes are? What's making him stand out?
I think with a player like Porro, his positioning is typically spot on. He's a very energetic player, phenomenal endurance. So he can play both ways. And regardless of the team's phase, whether they're attacking in transition or defending a little bit deeper on the field, he manages to locate his ideal starting position and just play his role within the team setup. And then, we see that once he does receive the ball in the attacking phases, he's a very dynamic player. He's such a live wire on the wings. I think in terms of dribbles per 90 minutes, he rates in like the 95th percentile of Liga NOS and 90th percentile in comparison to outside backs from Europe's top 5 leagues. So he is a guy who likes to take up a really good starting position and either look to isolate a defender to take him 1v1, or to put himself in a position where he can use the help of his teammates that are a little higher up the pitch. So he's a very intelligent player. I love the starting points. I love the aggression that he shows once he has the ball in that starting position. So he's a very exciting player to watch.
Yeah. I mean, how good do you think he can be? Because obviously people are asking, could he come back to City? We'll talk about the finances and his future in a second. But that's, people are saying, is he good enough to make it at one of the big clubs in Europe?
Yeah, so when you look at his performances over the past few months, he has won the Defensive Player of the Month award the past 3 months in Portugal. He, I guess, just got tired of winning just one award a month. Back in January, he scored an absolute banger against Boa Vista, and he took home the Goal of the Month award as well for January. So, his performances do show that he is a player who can play at a higher level. Not a Kyle Walker type player, if that's what Pep wants, and I think we all see the merit of Kyle Walker. He's someone who does bring more of a hard-nosed defensive approach, who gives freedom to his teammates higher up the pitch. He's not that kind of player, but he is more of a Joao Cancelo type player, although I would say probably more defensively secure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, if balance is a key for Pep, which I think it is, probably can't have the two, Cancelo on the left and then Porro on the right. But he's definitely someone who can play at that level. So, whether City brings him back or, they end up selling him to one of Europe's elite, I do think we'll see him make a move at some point. There's always already talk that Luis Enrique is looking to give him senior caps with the Spanish national team. Yeah. If you're playing on that Spanish team, you're going to make it to Europe's elite.
you got to be decent to get there.
Yeah.
The thing is, then, looking at the City side, if he's playing on the right as a right wing back, that kind of, as you say, fits the Cancelo role. How comfortable do you think he would be at doing a similar function to Cancelo by moving into midfield? I guess he could probably do that because he's half in midfield already by being a wing back, or in the final third, dribbling, shooting, because that's Cancelo's weakness. I think. So how good will he be? Do you think passing the ball, controlling the ball, dribbling, shooting, and doing his defensive duties as well?
Yeah, so I think there would be a little bit of an adjustment period. Much like we've seen with Cancelo, he has had to learn Pep's system. Maybe not take risks so early in the attack, which is something Porro would have to adapt to. So when you look at his performances with Sporting, he actually does send a pretty significant number of long passes per match. And his average pass length is actually in the 70th percentile or something like that for the league. So he does tend to, hit some longer range passes. And to some degree, that's breaking pressure on the right-hand side to complete the switch of play to Nuno Mendes. So, if that's contributing to that high passing total, that's understandable. But he is a player who likes to take chances. And I think for Pep, the concern would be teaching him when to take a chance. So like, okay, we're still in the middle third right now. So let's maybe be a little bit more, let's be a little safer right now and progress into the attacking third and then take a chance there. That's what I see from Pep. And that to me would be the biggest adjustment for Porro. But in terms of, his contributions to the defensive phases, I mean, as soon as Sporting loses the ball, he's quick on the counterattack. He's a very, very pacey player. So he tracks back pretty quickly, recovers ground at an exceptional rate. And, I think he fits City really well from that perspective. So for me, the biggest concern is probably just that, second phase of the attack fitting into Pep's system.
Do you think he'd be happy, satisfied playing second fiddle for a season or two, playing at City, for instance, with, for argument's sake, Joao Cancelo as first choice, Porro's second choice, but playing under Pep, learning and developing for 1 or 2 seasons under Pep? Do you think that would be enough to entice him? Would that help him? Because, as we say, he's only 21. And if he was to come to City, for argument's sake, next summer or the year after, and train under Pep for a season or two, by the time he's coming into his own, he'll be 23/24. Do you think he could wait that long? Do you think he'd be happy to do that?
Boy, that's a tough question. I would say that's an appeal for any player coming in and learning from Pep. Especially, I think if you are someone that Pep likes to use as, the attacking outside back in his system, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of value within that role. For me, though, it's that balance of to go play for Pep, one of the best teachers in the game, or if Sporting does win the league and right now they look very sure for a Champions League spot for next year. Like, is that something you'd want to miss out on? Being one of the guys for a Champions League level team, and if Sporting can keep this core intact for another couple of years, maybe this is the team that supplants Porto as the Portuguese team that can consistently get to the knockout rounds for the next few years.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's a tough call. We'd have to see what his personality favors.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know, big fish, small pond, small fish, big pond.
Yeah, I mean, I think at City, City play about 60 games a season, so you're going to get game time. It might not be loads and loads of league games, but you'll get things like the League Cup, FA Cup, and Champions League. Because if you look at people like, if you get a group like what we had, that City had this year, Ferran Torres played a lot, and Phil Foden played a lot. Pretty much. I think they probably played it 4, 5, 6 games. So and Torres was utilised a lot earlier in the season before Christmas, before he got COVID, and before he was out for a while, and now he's struggling to get back because everybody's back. But you could see him playing 20 games in a season, which isn't bad. I don't think that's a bad return. And obviously, if he shows he's good enough, then you're good enough. I think
Yeah.
if he does better than Cancelo, then you're inside. So it's very exciting. Then my final question is to discuss with you, what is his future? Now, we said he's on a 2-year loan, and there's lots of permutations here. Now, so he's on a 2-year loan. So there's obviously the option to, I suspect, the option to buy at the end of that 2-year loan. That's kind of what a 2-year loan feels to me.
Mm-hmm.
You could look at it and say it's there to develop the player, give him a solid place to play for 2 years. But it also feels like you could sell him on. And remember, City paid, I think, £11 million for him. So there's that option to sell him on. There's the option, I guess, to bring him back or to buy him back at the end of those 2 years, like we generally do now with players. People like, for instance, Angelino. We sold him to PSV very cheaply. I think it was €5 or €6 million. And we bought him back after he had a great season. Then I think Angelino actually came out today and said Pep didn't trust him after the 2 pre-season games, and Pep had made his mind up after that. I mean, he didn't. I'll be honest, he didn't look good at all. He looked out of like a fish out of water. And then City did a deal with Leipzig and on loan, and then a cheap buy deal. I mean, £16 million for Angelino is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous fee, and he's gone. He's worth probably at least double, if not around 40 million, I would suggest. We've done something similar with Jack Harrison. We got him pretty cheaply, sent him off to Leeds. They got promoted. No, actually, before they got promoted, we wanted to sell him, but they couldn't afford him. I think we wanted about £15 million. And he stayed there another couple of seasons, and I think he's going to go there probably for about eight or £10 million. So the idea is, could Pedro Porro, I mean, you might know better than me the numbers, could he end up at Sporting Lisbon, staying there for a ridiculously cheap price? Could City get him back? And once you finish that, I will throw another unusual way to do business into the equation. So what do you think? What do you think is best for him, or what's possible?
Yeah, that is a loaded question, because there are so many ins and outs of the contract. Just researching the contract, it looks like Sporting can buy him back, or can make the deal permanent for about €8.5 million.
Yeah.
But a Bola, Portuguese newspaper, have said that there is a buyback option. So it's one of those. And actually, another point, his agent has said that Sporting can make the deal permanent whenever they want. It's up to them. So, I don't know. It might be a matter of timing. So, if Sporting activates the clause this season, I'd imagine, City can buy him back at any time. But, if Sporting maybe waits until next February, like we saw with Luka Jovic at Frankfurt with his purchase from Benfica, do you wait a little bit longer to then trigger those additional releases or those additional clauses to secure your maximum time with the player? So if that's the case, I think Sporting could wait until next year to activate that permanent deal. And long term, I think they would love to have him. He fits brilliantly within the system. Like I said, between he and Mendes on the left, I mean, Sporting has just dominated the wings this year. And they're looking at Champions League play next season. I mean, very, very close. They get a win this weekend, and that's almost a sure thing. So I think timing will be a big part of it. But eventually, I do see Sporting triggering that clause to make it permanent. And then I could see City exercising the buyback option.
You know what the buyback clause is? Have you any idea?
I don't. So that's one of these great mysteries of the football world. No one will release that information. But I think City does eventually exercise that option just to make a profit on him.
Yeah.
There's definitely a possibility he comes back to City. But I think the more likely case is that they sell him to another European powerhouse for, 50 million euros.
Yeah. Oh, so okay. The other ideas I'm thinking of, obviously we did it with Angelino. We bought him back cheaply, knowing that clubs would have paid about 20 million euros for him. There were rumours the summer that we got him that clubs were sniffing around to pay about 20 million for him. So we, instead of letting PSV sell him on, we bought him back to sell him on. And we also had that issue with Mendy coming back from injury. So we did need some cover. Once Mendy was back and more fit, I don't think he's ever going to be fit again fully, but he was more fit, then we felt comfortable to let him go, because we had Angelino back, we had Cancelo as well, so we felt, not Angelino, sorry, Zinchenko. Angelino was then third choice, and Mendy was back, so we were, I think, comfortable then to let him go to Leipzig. So it could be that City look at this and say, for argument's sake, let's say that the buyback is 10 million or 12 million, whatever. City could say, well, this guy's worth 30 million. If you look at him now, what's he worth today? Someone was to say 30 million. Is that his value, or 20 million, whatever? City could buy him back and sell him on to somebody else. But there's two other things, and I looked at this with Douglas Luiz, and I'll tell you briefly about the Douglas Luiz deal. Now, City can buy him for either 25 or 30 million pounds. We sold him to Aston Villa, and speaking to Villa fans before COVID, they thought he's worth more than about 40. They believed he was worth at least 40 million pounds. He's one of their best players, and he's still very young. He's still developing. And so I said, well, City could just buy him back and then sell him on to someone else. So if someone was willing to pay 40 million and City bought him back for 25 or 30 million, whatever the price is, City could make a 10 million profit for doing nothing. But a better way to do it is, if the team, and so they could look at this and say, we can do that, but maybe a better way is to say to Sporting, look, we know this kid is worth about 30 million pounds. We believe. We've had a couple of inquiries as well, or, that they can just make that up. But it's all fair in love and war. And they can say, right, he's worth 30 million. We got the buyback at 10, let's say 10 million. What do you want to pay us to release that buyback clause? And so we won't do anything, and I think Villa, if we situate to Villa about Douglas Luiz and say, pay us 10 million, we won't exercise that buyback clause, because Villa want him. He's been there, this is his second season. He's doing really well. If City went to Sporting, they could either say to Sporting, pay us another 10 million, you can keep him, we won't exercise. So you've got him permanently. And if you can sell him for 50 million in 2 years' time, hey, that's your money.
Yeah. That's
the thing is, sorry, if you develop him for 2 years and he's worth 50 million, Sporting are going to be kicking themselves if City can buy him back for 10.
Yeah. So I will say there, Sporting is a club that traditionally slaps very, very high fees on their players. Their release clauses are astronomical. I think for Nuno Mendes, they've pushed it pretty close to 100 million. So they want to make sure that if a player leaves, it's on their terms and with the right finances. So I would be surprised if the buyback is below 20 million euros. So yeah, if I'm City, if that buyback is 20 million euros, that's definitely worth it. If it's 30 million, yeah, maybe that is worthwhile to just pay Sporting or to have Sporting pay an additional fee to remove that clause from the contract. Yeah, it really, I think, just depends on the margins
Yeah.
of that deal, and what the buyback looks like. We really don't know. I think the deal was made before anyone really knew how good this kid could be. Maybe Sporting had a great idea, which is why they secured the 2-year loan. But yeah, I mean, until we know exactly what that buyback fee looks like, yeah, it's tough to make a call on which route to take. But if it is in excess of 30 million euros, that might be City's best bet. Maybe just get 10 million back, or
Yeah. I
yeah.
can't see. I mean, I'd be surprised if it's that high. Just knowing what we did with Iheanacho was different. We sold it for 25 million. The buyback was 50 million, so it was double what we paid. Angelino was cheap. It was around what we paid for him. Douglas Luiz, I think we sold him for 15 million. The buyback is between 25 and 30. But there is one final option. City need a left back. They're looking this summer. If they could have got rid of Mendy before, they'd have got rid of him, but he's always been injured, so nobody wants to pay the wages for Mendy and the fee. Could City look at Mendes as a left wing back, and as part of the deal, leave Pedro Porro with Sporting to do what they want? Is that potentially an option as well?
Man, if City could rig that, that is quite the coup. Mendes, I think with Mendes, we're looking at the future left back of the Portuguese national team. Rafael Guerreiro's probably got another, I don't know, maybe 2 years. I could maybe see him getting through the World Cup before Mendes supplants him as the starter. Because Mendes really has been that impressive. I think he does need to eventually go to one of Europe's top fives. And all indications show that he's going to go either to England or Spain. And he needs to prove himself there. But when you look at raw ability, I mean, he's a freak athlete. He's just incredibly intelligent with the ball, and his passing quality is phenomenal. So if City can secure his signing, and especially get that under the nose of Liverpool.
I feel there's another video in that on Mendes alone. But do you know what Mendes' release clause is?
I can't recall if he signed the contract offer, because Sporting that he's going to pad the bank account. So I don't see him leaving for any less than 65 million euros. Liverpool's already tried for about 45. Sporting turned them away, just laughed them out the door. So yeah, I'd have to check on the contract, but he's going to cost at least 65.
So I'm just thinking, if City went to Sporting, we do business with them and said, look, we'll offer you the 40 million, and you can keep Porro, cancel the clause in his contract. Cancelling that clause in his contract potentially is worth a lot of money, because as we said, if in 2 years' time he's worth 60 million and Porto have paid 20 for him in total, that's 40 million profit. So City could look at that and try and get a deal. So yeah, I'm just trying to think creatively.
Yeah. Hey, Ray, let me ask you. So you've got Cancelo playing on the left right now, and then you've got Walker on the right.
No, Cancelo's taken over. Walker really does look old hat.
Really?
The way Cancelo's playing on the right, what Cancelo offers, because we've got this guy called Ruben Diaz and another guy called John Stones who are rocks at the back. And sometimes we play two at the back. We've been playing two defenders, two centre-backs. When we need an extra man, Rodri comes back and fills in. And we've been playing the left wing out way out on the left wing. Cancelo plays out on the right or moves into midfield to help the creativity, especially against teams who have got a low block, parking the bus, because he's an extra body in midfield. Because we don't need 4 defenders, really, you don't need that. And there was a game last season
only has one player up.
Yeah, that's it. Last season against Crystal Palace, we had Fernandinho and Rodri as our centre backs. And I argued that one of the reasons was, and we had 3, I think, Diaz, Otamendi, and maybe another centre back on the bench. And I said, well, people asking me, why would you do that? I said, because Crystal Palace are going to offer us nothing. And we want to start playing the ball as soon as possible. You don't need, defending centre backs. These guys can do the job. And I think that's what City have done. Walker offers you that physicality, that pace, that in-your-face aggression at times. But he's a bit of a loose cannon. He does switch off. And his forward play, he just hits the ball past someone and runs and usually beats them. But his crossing needs a bit of work, and his passing needs, a bit of work. Whereas Cancelo is offering us dribbling, passing. He's not great at shooting. That's his problem. But he's doing everything, and that creative element that he's offering us is wonderful. And when you look at Walker now, when he came, he was unbelievable. He added such a different dimension to City's team, and now he doesn't. When you can just see the difference between Cancelo and now Walker's pretty much out the side. And I'm thinking for the future, you could have Cancelo and Porro, or Cancelo there on the left. Who we got? We got Zinchenko, and that's it. We have played Aki at left back. We played Laporte there, but I don't think they work. They're too defensive. We want someone who's going to be a proper wing back, like Zinchenko does for us, like Mendes could do. So you could have this exciting prospect of. On the wing, our wing backs or right backs and left backs as being Cancelo and Porro, or Zinchenko and Mendes, or Mendes and Zinchenko. It is exciting.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the rumors that David Alaba could come to Manchester
I can't see that
as well.
So
if he does go, that buys him a year or two before needing Mendes.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. They could always buy Mendes and conduct that business now, but then leave him at Sporting for another year.
I think that's the way they could do it. I don't think they'll get Alaba. The way things are looking with Alaba, to be honest, he looks Madrid bound. But
I've heard City's put in a better offer than Real Madrid.
Well, I was going to say there's a but. Madrid, there's a limit to what Madrid can do. The thing is, when you look at because he's coming on a technically, like they call it a free, but it's not free. It's because it's going to be a nice signing on bonus to him and his agent. And City won't pay him the wages that he's asking for, but they'll as a basic, they'll do a deal. They'll work it out. But there's lots of rumors about Alaba that he doesn't want to come to England, going to Madrid. It's still a big deal for players. Mbappe wants to go there, even though Madrid are certainly not the force they used to be. I can't see Alaba coming. I mean, I'd love it. I'd love it if he came, because he's still what 29. He'd be awesome for 3 or 4 seasons. But it'd be interesting, and I think that's for when we talk about Mendes, we'll look at that as something. But I've got to round it up, because I mean, it's a funny thing. Started this video, I thought, well, we do 10 or 15 minutes, and 30 minutes later, you think, wow, we've covered a lot of ground that I wasn't expecting, because Porro's exciting, and obviously Mendes and all the permutations as well. Got to say, Scott, always an education talking to you. It's always worth listening, and if I can remember half of what you said, I can go somewhere else and talk about that. That would be brilliant.
30 plus minutes. So yeah, there's a lot there.
I'll go and watch this a couple of times. Don't worry, mate. Thanks so much for coming on, Scott, and you have a great day, mate.
All right, you too, Ray. Thank you.